CNN, Fox News, MSNBC's contributors, pardon me, English is my second language. These are the people invited to talk on the air about politics. They're often also employed as lobbyists. You see where I'm going here? Think about that. So after you're told by your favorite news anchor on one of these networks that the person that you're hearing from is neutral, you should ask yourself, really? They're neutral? You see, for those people, the presidential election is not about what's good for you. It's about what's good for them. By the way, the same can be said for donors and bankers and billionaires who also have a lot of sway in this upcoming presidential election of ours. So, is the fix in? Chris Hedges may think so. He's been writing a lot about this lately. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning author. He's also the host of On Contact right here in RT America, and one of the guys I most respect when it comes to this kind of information. Chris, thanks for being here with us.
Thanks, Rick.
So tell me what your thinking is on what's going on right now with the presidential election and the undue influences that you're writing about.
Well, it's the one-choice election. And by that I mean who's going to manage corporate power. The elites, the ruling elites, prefer Biden, but they can live with Trump. The candidate they cannot live with, and they've been quite vocal about it, is Bernie Sanders.
Really?
Well, you've had several articles in the New York Times. People like Lloyd Blankfein, the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, and others have said that if Sanders is the nominee, they will support Trump. And that's because they look at Sanders as a threat to their consolidation of power and their consolidation of profit. And we've seen now a kind of unified front gathering around Biden, coupled with a very vicious kind of red baiting against Sanders, including this ridiculous story last Friday in the New York Times, where it was a long story about Bernie Sanders having a sister city in, he was the mayor of Burlington, a sister city in Russia. You know, the Matlock, the former ambassador, actually wrote a letter to the New York Times and said, you know, this was totally approved by the embassy. It was during Gorbachev. It was during Glass.
And he said the same thing about Cuba that Obama said, but somehow it was turned into he's a communist because he once said that the educational system and the fact that they have a lot of doctors in Cuba, both of those things are true by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't make Cuba a great country. It just says that they have those two things. What's interesting here is a lot of people are watching our show, and a lot of them think, well, the Democrats are different than the Republicans. And you're here to say that right now the establishment, the big, powerful people in the United States of America are pushing for the Democrat.
Yeah,
because it's Joe Biden.
Well, and they were pushing for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
But let's look at Biden's record. He has a long record. Cheerleader for the war in Iraq.
Right.
Repeatedly called for cuts to Social Security. Architect for mass incarceration. Raising, doubling and tripling, sometimes quadrupling sentences. Militarizing police. Voting against to revoke Glass-Steagall that put firewalls between commercial and investment banks. Constant supporter of the war. I mean, it's on and on and on. And these are bipartisan issues, beginning with the Clinton administration. What they fight over are the tangential cultural issues. And so the ruling elites are, you know, the funny thing about it is they talk about the least worst. Well, that's for us. That's for me and you.
Right.
If it's between Trump and Biden, you have to vote for Biden. But if it's between Bernie and Biden, there is no least worst. I mean, Trump, there is no least worst. They all support Trump.
They don't want somebody who's going to shake up the system. But you know what's interesting about all this, and really what this underscores, what you're writing about, and what we're now talking about, is the fact that elections have gotten away from the American people.
Right. Well, because neither party functions as a genuine political party. The base has absolutely no say, and not only in terms of the policies of the party, but at this point, I would argue even who the nominee is. Because Bernie, if he came in with a plurality, on the second round of voting, you know, there's no chance he'll come in with a 1,900 and whatever it is.
Right.
But the second round of voting, you have 771 superdelegates, which are appointed, who swing the election. So there was all that talk of, and now, of course, the Biden machine is in full force. We'll see what happens in Michigan and other places. But when Bernie was a real threat, they were quite open about the fact. The New York Times interviewed 90 of the superdelegates who all said, it doesn't really matter who has the plurality. We're going to vote for the candidate who's...
So much for the people's choice. Chris Hedges, nobody like him. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks for coming by.